Lamar looked like the old Lamar.
If a little bit of rain comes down, a little bit of snow.
Home run ball, let's do it. Let's win this game.
Steelers are running into a buzzsaw.
Hello, welcome to Football X's and O's, our weekly tactics show giving you the inside analysis on the best NFL matchups every Monday. We'll take a deeper dive into the Steelers' epic 26-24 win over the Ravens in the final week of the season. I'm Ryan Cinudo, alongside me is NFL expert David Scott. David, the Steelers won the AFC North by the thinnest of margins, while the Ravens season ended in heartbreaking fashion.
Oh, it was so close. They were right there, and yet they just couldn't get it. We're going to talk about what went well for them anyway.
It was a heck of a game. So what topics do you have for us?
All right, so we're talking about the King of the North. The Steelers are officially the AFC North winners in that very tight game. We'll talk about the comparisons between the two teams, who did what well, who could have done a little bit better. Talk about flower power. Zay Flowers went crazy in this game. He had 2 touchdowns on long plays. Unfortunately, was not enough to get them the win. Talking about Deja Vu. That second Zay Flowers touchdown looked almost identical to the first one. Some little discrepancies here and there, but we'll talk about why that one worked so well. We're going to talk about the game winner between Aaron Rodgers and Calvin Austin. They linked up for what would wind up being the game-winning touchdown, even though the Ravens had a chance to win it there at the end. And then we're going to talk about getting wild, just to look ahead at that wild card matchup between the Steelers and the Houston Texans that's going to take place in the first round.
All right, let's get to the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. Let's start with Rodgers. It wasn't pretty. The stats speak for itself. But he got the win, and you know what? It wasn't pretty, and no turnovers. That's the main part. Compared to Jackson, he did get a turnover.
Yeah, Rodgers had to throw the ball a lot, all over the place. He was chucking the ball left and right as much as he needed to. The running game wasn't quite there. Jaylen Warren had a couple good runs there. Kenneth Gainwell was doing his job, but really they just needed to keep throwing the ball to keep themselves in the game, and that's what they did. Rodgers had to get it all over the place, but he was clean with the football, and that in this kind of game is really what matters. When you're in that tight battle, really fighting back and forth, as long as you're not turning over the ball, you're going to give yourself a better chance. So I think Rodgers played good enough in this game. He's going to need to play a lot better once they get into the playoffs, but good enough is what got them into the playoffs at least.
And for Rodgers, I mean, you saw the wide receiver group. He's got, Adam Thielen out there, MVS. You have DK Metcalf. So that certainly played a huge role when it comes to Rodgers. Not really being in sync with his offense. You could tell he was a little frustrated with his players during the game.
Yeah, I mean, he was completing passes to Scotty Miller, Adam Thielen, Calvin Austin. Like, that's not a huge supporting group. You would think that if he had DK Metcalf for these last 2 games, they might have clinched the playoffs last week instead of having it come down to a winner-take-all game in Week 18. He doesn't have that. He's got to go with one of the worst supporting casts in the NFL this week. And he does, pretty well with it. That game winner to Calvin Austin, he had a really nice completion to Adam Thielen down the field. He was utilizing Pat Freiermuth on some of those completions as tight end. So spreading the ball around is what you have to do when you don't have that clear number one in your offense, and that's exactly what he did. And that's why he was able to stay in this game. You saw from what we're going to talk about later is that Jackson really force-fed the ball to Zay Flowers, which was working for them, and he is their top option. Rodgers really had to get more creative, spread the wealth, check downs, get to your 4th, 5th option if you need to, and it worked out just fine.
And for Lamar Jackson, it wasn't pretty in the first 3 quarters. I think that, on social media, a lot of people are saying, I think Huntley should have started instead of Jackson. He comes back from the injury. But Lamar stepped up in the 4th quarter. Yes, they didn't win. Yes, they're eliminated now. But Lamar looked like the old Lamar in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, there were a couple plays there where it was really vintage MVP Lamar Jackson. He pulled off a couple really, really nice plays. He was keeping them in the game, and then he brought them down the field to, eventually try to win the game. Of course, the kick does not go in, and they don't win the game, but he put them in position to win the game. A little over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked good. That 1 interception is rough. It was just right place, right time for T.J. Watt. The ball got batted down right into his hands. So lucky on T.J. Watt. It's still going to show up in the stat sheet as an interception, but Lamar played well. He was using his legs. He wasn't running down the field, but he was using his legs in the pocket, that elusiveness that we haven't really seen much of from him this season. He brought that back out in this game, and you're right, there were question marks about him playing in this game. You and I questioned it last week. I said that he should sit down for this game. He stepped up in a big way. He really showed why he is the franchise quarterback of this team, and he didn't get the win, but that might give them some confidence moving forward in him, because there were a few question marks about potential trades this offseason, but I don't think anything like that's going to come around.
I think we could put that talk to rest. I think Lamar is the guy. Baltimore would be crazy to get rid of him. But Lamar, 11 of 18, he did struggle in the first 3 quarters, but at the same time, Derrick Henry was that guy. I mean, he had over 100 rushing yards in the first half. Lamar, it was definitely the tandem that we've seen in the past of Lamar and Derrick Henry in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, they looked really good until they stopped using it. And this kind of feels like the just the constant story for the Ravens of Derrick Henry is running the ball like crazy, absolutely pounding the rock. He's got 70 to 120 yards in the first half and a touchdown. And then the second half, they decide they don't need to do that anymore, and then they lose the game.
Yeah.
This has happened on several occasions. It happened in that Patriots game where they started the ball really hot with Derrick Henry, stopped giving him the ball, they end up losing the game. So I think there are some coaching questions to be talked about here, and we won't dive too deep into that. It's Black Monday. We'll see if by the time that this episode comes out, if Harbaugh is still the head coach there. I think they're going to have a lot of tough conversations in that front office, but things got to change in the way they run the team and the way they run this offense, the defense as well. They're going to have to do a lot of sweeping positional and player changes, but in the end, it didn't work out. They could have kept up that philosophy to make it work in the fourth quarter. They didn't. They end up losing the game.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, let's get to the topics. So we fast forward to the fourth quarter. Steelers are up 13-10. Baltimore has the football, 3rd and 4 on the 50, and this is the first touchdown from Lamar Flowers. Deep ball touchdown.
Yeah, so this is an awesome play from Lamar Jackson that you can't see from this kind of X's and O's play sheet. We got 5 guys lined up on the line and then 2 linebackers here. They're kind of showing pressure. They want Lamar Jackson to think there's going to be a blitz here. These 2 guys drop back into coverage, and then our lineman on the right side also drops back into coverage. So they're only sending 4 guys. This is pretty standard pressure. What happens is 2 of the 4 rushers break through instantly, just a complete breakdown from the offensive line for the Ravens. They're instantly on Jackson. They both make contact with him, and neither guy can get him down. So Jackson spins out of the play. So what's going on here is this play is extending way longer than it's supposed to. Sometimes that creates huge problems for the defense because you start to question, is the ball out? Is someone down? Like, what's going on? The play starts to deteriorate. So as Flowers is running his route, all of a sudden he's now covered by our linebacker here. This is Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen is a big dude who is known for taking down the quarterback, not for covering top wide receivers. So when Jackson breaks out of this play here, Flowers starts streaking downfield, and he's got Patrick Queen tailing him. He's never going to catch up to that. It's real easy for Jackson to just throw the ball over the top to Flowers. That's a touchdown reception, no contesting. The safety, no clue where he was to help out in this play. He maybe bit down here. He was nowhere to be found. It ends up being a one-on-one Flowers and Queen. That can just never happen. Happens here, gives the Ravens the lead.
I feel like we didn't see this play enough this year compared to years past. I mean, Jackson, he was dead to rights. He was almost going to get sacked, and he leaves the pocket and throws that. And that was just so great of Lamar to, even like point while he's about right before he's going to throw it. That's just the Lamar that we've seen in years past.
Yeah, this is something we haven't seen all year. It's just Jackson using his elusiveness and his improvisational skills to make something out of nothing. That's been missing from the Ravens offense this season. That's what makes him so great. That's what's made him an MVP twice in his career. You're right. When he got out of this play after getting, almost knocked down by 2 rushers, he's directing the play down the field. He's telling Flowers, keep going deep. I'm going to get it to you, because I'm sure he recognized that number 6 was behind him, and that guy is not a cornerback. And so Jackson has the capabilities to do this, and it's great that we're seeing this from him. The problem is it's week 18. It's too late. You're not in the playoffs. You can't do anything more about it. So it's tough that it showed itself so late in the season. He was, struggling with injuries too. That could have been part of it. But a rough season for the Ravens. You get so close, yet so far. At this point in the game, you're probably high on life because you're thinking, we got something going here.
Yeah.
And then, all of a sudden it comes crumbling down. But in this moment, really great play from Jackson. Nice work from Flowers to keep extending the play even after he looks dead to rights, not giving up on the play. Works out in the end. Really nice touchdown that gives them the lead.
Yeah, I feel like they should have utilized, I get it, Zay Flowers has great stats this year, good stats, but the other guys haven't been stepping up, and Zay is doing it. And I think for him, like you said, to not give up on a play, you saw DeAndre Hopkins at the very end. He stopped. Lamar thought he kept going. He didn't keep going. Those guys weren't doing stuff that Zay Flowers has been doing consistently.
Yeah, D-Hop only got his name called, I think, once in this game. Isaiah Likely, the tight end, he was stepping up. He was doing his job. But Mark Andrews wasn't really doing anything.
He was on a milk carton.
Rashad Bateman, you couldn't even tell if he's still on the team. And obviously Derrick Henry's doing his work in the backfield. But yeah, it was a one-man show with Zay Flowers in the offense in this game. And that can't happen. As we were saying earlier, Aaron Rodgers spreading the ball around to his receivers, getting everyone involved. Here it was just Jackson to Flowers over and over again. If that's not working, the offense isn't working. And Fortunately for them, it was working for most of this fourth quarter, but other guys got to step up in those big moments to try and really establish your lead and get that win.
All right, to the next play. Steelers would respond with a touchdown. It's 2017 Pittsburgh. Baltimore has the football 3rd and 1 on their own 36. And again, Zay Flowers, deep ball pass from Lamar to Zay.
Yeah, we're getting some deja vu here. It's almost the same thing. It's just a almost broken play that results in a deep touchdown. If you're looking at this collection of X's and are confused about what's going on, I'm also confused because this is just such strange defensive format. As I was looking at this and drawing it up, I was just baffled. And it makes sense why this play worked out because you're looking at here. Let's split the field in half here. Here's our center. We'll split it there. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys on the center or to the right of him.
Yeah.
And then 2 linemen over there to the left. So they're obviously not going to be in coverage. Everyone bites down. Genuinely, everyone bites down when this ball is snapped. Don't know why, but everyone bites down. And Flowers just is walking across the field. There is nothing that goes on here offensively or defensively that's special. However, it's a massive touchdown because Zay Flowers is wide open. This is what you see in college football.
Yep.
When guys are just bouncing down the field with no coverage on them. Totally inexcusable from the Steelers defense. This coverage is inexcusable from the Steelers defense. I don't know if this is a miscommunication, if they had differing play calls coming in, if they didn't know who they were covering, if it was a quick play and they were confused by the tempo, if they were running an all-out blitz but didn't go to cover their guys. I have zero explanation for you. All I know is that it's a really, really bad defense, and they are so lucky that it didn't come back to bite them.
So the offensive line, they slide. Everyone slides to the right. No pass rush either. I mean, not just the coverage, but there was no one getting to Lamar in this play.
Again, that's why it's so confusing. You've completely stacked the box, yet you're not running a blitz, yet you're not dropping back into a zone, yet these guys aren't covering anyone. What is anyone doing in this play? That's why I'm so confused about what's going on here. No one seems to be doing their actual job except the defensive linemen who are rushing. But again, they don't get that good pressure. So what's going on here? Uncovered. This guy's working as a blocker here, but uncovered. But who's doing what here?
Yeah.
You are so lucky that you end up winning this game because this right here is a season-ending, playoff berth losing amalgamation of junk that can never happen again. And if you see that against the Texans in the next round, you toast.
Good luck. I mean, this happened, 2 minutes left in the game, so that certainly can't happen. But for, Baltimore, I think they were expecting the run in this play, but at the same time, that just can't happen, like you said, the coverage. But I got to give credit to Baltimore. Yes, Monken, I think he deserves blame, for his play calling this year, but to just say, home run ball, let's do it, let's win this game to our deep man, our best wide receiver, Zay Flowers, that certainly surprised the Steelers defense.
Yeah, I do always love, in a short yardage situation, going for that big play, because a lot of times you can either catch a team off guard by going for that big play, or it falls incomplete and you go for it, on the next play. It's 3rd and short here, 3rd and 1. This is obviously a 4th down situation with how late in the game it is and that they're trailing. So even if they don't connect on this play, they're going to go for it again on the next play. So you might as well take the shot. It just winds up that no one's covering Zay Flowers, so it ends up being a touchdown. So yeah, I do like this. A lot of times, teams will run play action in this scenario too to bait the run. They didn't even go play action. They just chucked it down the field, and it ended up working. So in what has been a season of poor offensive play calling, this is a good job here of drawing up something that is a little bit divisive that might not see in other situations that ends up working out just fine.
All right, to the last play, the Steelers need a touchdown. They're down 24-20, less than a minute left in the game, 3rd and 10 on the opposing 26-yard line, and Rodgers finds Calvin Austin for the wide open touchdown.
Yeah, this is a testament to Calvin Austin's route running skills because he just leaves his man in the dust here. This is a nice little play call here, just trying to find different options. But Rodgers said post-game that this was always going to Calvin Austin. He said they were trying to figure it out in the huddle who was going to get what the play call was going to be, and then it was either Pat Freiermuth or someone else said just cook him, and that's what they ended up doing. Austin ends up running a hitch and go. Pretty much, you run up a few yards, little shimmy, and then you keep going. And that little shimmy totally burnt his cornerback. He ends up on all fours on the ground. So you did something right. And at that point, if your corner is on all fours in man coverage, you're going to be wide open for a touchdown, and that's exactly what happens. Rodgers doesn't have to do anything special. He just floats it up into the end zone, and that's the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, we talked about the Steelers a couple times during this year, and you know what? Yes, Calvin Austin, I think he needs some more work, needs some more development. He was obviously out last year, but after Metcalf, I think Austin, maybe not this year, but next year moving forward, he's got to be that guy that you can rely on if you don't, add wide receivers.
Yeah, he is a solid, I think, wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on, if you get someone else to complement Metcalf. Metcalf is that big physical receiver that can test and catch guys. Sure, he can go down the field, and he's got some pretty good speed, but Calvin Austin is a true deep threat. He is very, very quick, and I think that's why this hitch and go works so well, because when you have to deal with the threat of his vertical speed, and all of a sudden you get a quick cut to stop that route, that is going to be real confusing for a defender, and that could cause you to face plant onto the ground in a very embarrassing fashion. Yeah, I think Austin is a great option for this offense. He did a great job in this game of stepping up into that wide receiver 1 role and really helped them get the win throughout the entire game, not just in this last play.
Yeah, you said Rodgers didn't have to do too much. It was just simple throw. Austin is completely open. I think Rodgers played a lot better because Kyle Hamilton was out. He had the concussion. He didn't come back into the game. And you could just tell, I think the commentator said it too, Collinsworth, that, yeah, this is a different game now. Kyle Hamilton is probably your best guy on that field. And for him to be out, that was massive.
Yeah, Hamilton is really the conductor of that Ravens defense. When he is on the field, everything is going on around him. It's not a lot of defenses where your strong safety is really the guy in the defense. But that is the Ravens defense. He is just an exceptional player out there. He is one of the top players on defense in the league, not just at the safety position. And yeah, there was a huge discrepancy in the Steelers' offense before and after he went down. Before he goes down, Steelers are getting around 3.5 yards per play. Not great, and they're really not showing up on the field. Hamilton goes down, that goes over to 6.5 yards per play around there. So that is a huge difference, and it's real unfortunate that he goes down to some friendly fire, just 2 Ravens defenders colliding heads. It works out really well for the Steelers, but you think about the what-ifs, and if he stays on the field the whole game, we could be talking a much different story.
And we talked about, obviously, Hamilton being out. That played a huge role. But then the pass rush. I mean, Rodgers, he doesn't move around, obviously. There were a couple times he could have gotten a first down back in his prime, but he couldn't because he's 42. The pass rush was just not there for Baltimore in this game.
Yeah, and especially on this play, they dropped guys back on this one, so really no pressure at all here. But most of the game, no pressure on Rodgers. He took 2 sacks throughout the game. That was it. And he had a 20-yard run at one point.
Yeah.
So, that is inexcusable for a guy at 42 years old who cannot run with the football at all, to really just not be afraid of the pressure that's going on around him. And sure, Rodgers is a vet. He is not going to be fazed by pressure in his face anyway. But to not get any pressure at all throughout the game, that can't happen. And that is why, at least one of the factors why the Steelers are in this position late in the game to get that game-winning score.
All right, it wasn't pretty for Pittsburgh. They're 10-7. They win the AFC North. Now they got to face Houston Texans, a Houston Texans team that has the best defense in the league. Houston is favored in this game, and for good reason. Look at these stats. They are winning every single stat against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, Steelers have that home advantage, but I don't think it's going to do much for them. I mean, you look at the discrepancies in these stats, and it really shows one team is much better than the other. You look down the board for the Steelers, and I look at their numbers, and they look like a bottom third NFL team, and yet they're here in the playoffs. And then you look at the Texans, and sure, their offense is not the best offense in the NFL, but it's good enough to complement this defense that is just gnarly. I mean, first in defensive yards per game, second in points allowed per game. They are just, I haven't seen a defensive unit this good in a long time. It reminds me of like units like the Legion of Boom and those old Ravens defenses when they were just barely allowing any scores at any point throughout the season. They were so good this year. I didn't see it coming. Sure, they have great guys like Will Anderson on that team, and their secondary is so solid, but I did not see them being the number 1 unit in the league. They come in here, they just completely establish themselves as an incredible force, and that keeps them afloat while C.J. Stroud is down with injury. C.J. Stroud comes back, they start rolling through opponents. They really could have won the AFC South. The Jaguars, props to them, did really, really good this season. But the Texans were right there. They could have won that division, and I think they have a pretty solid path to the Super Bowl, especially with this defense. The Steelers are running into a buzzsaw. They're going to have to do a lot to win this game. I just don't know if they have the firepower to do it. They're going to have DK Metcalf back, so that helps. But at the same time,
Yeah.
like it's not good.
You read my mind. They're getting DK Metcalf back in this game. TJ Watt came back in that Ravens game. He actually looked good. You know, he wasn't the same Watt, obviously, coming back from the injury, but the pass rush, they get a couple sacks on Lamar Jackson. That might help in a way. They get, DK Metcalf back. You get that guy that they have to focus on. But then the rest, we were talking about Calvin Austin, but they just don't move you. And Texans, they have the playmakers. So I think, top to bottom, the Houston Texans roster is better.
Yeah, it's going to come down for the Steelers to defense. If you can contain C.J. Stroud and the Texans' offense, that's going to give you a chance at least. All they need is a chance. This is the weak point of the Texans' defense. This is what I've said could hold the Texans back in the playoffs. Can their offense hold them up enough to allow that defense to work? Sure, if the defense is only giving up 17 points per game, that's going to help you out a lot. But if the offense cannot get enough of a rhythm to overcome that, then obviously you're not going to win the football game. The Steelers have a competent defense. Sure, hasn't been as good as it has been in past years, but that was a good showing against the Ravens in this game. They put a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson. They were getting stops. That one turnover, they looked solid. If they can translate that into the playoffs, hold the Texans to 20 points, maybe less than 20 points, you're going to have a shot. But Steelers' offense is going to have to be perfect for that to work out. It's got to be perfect for them. Bad Texans offense, regular Texans defense. If the Texans defense is great and the offense is all right, the Texans are going to win that game. The Steelers have to be perfect on offense, perfect on defense to even have a chance of getting out of this matchup.
And you're right. I think Pittsburgh, in order for them to win this game, it has to be an ugly game. Like Stroud has to look like the guy from last year. So I agree with you. Your prediction, I know it sounded like you think the Houston Texans are going to win, but who do you think is going to win this game?
Yeah, I do think the Texans are going to win this game. I don't see the Steelers having enough, star power on either side of the ball to get this done. Now, on the other hand, if they play some true AFC North football, just
all bets are off.
Get muddy out there. If a little bit of rain comes down, a little bit of snow, the story could change here because when that AFC North defense comes out in the playoffs, things can change. But the Steelers haven't gotten a playoff win in a while. This team is not one of the best Mike Tomlin teams that we've seen. So I'm going to give the edge to the Texans. I think they are the much better team, and I think they do have a chance to get up to an AFC Championship game or better.
All right, that's going to wrap things up here at Football X's and O's. You can catch us every Monday still. You're going to be taping for the postseason, and we also have Anthony Ball every Thursday. Please like and subscribe and let us know in the comments who you think is going to win in this matchup, the Steelers or the Texans.